What's up, guys? Horrorman back for another review. So today we're going to take a look at the Universal Monsters creature from the Black Lagoon Ultimate action figure. Now this one is made by NECA Toys and it's just part of their ongoing Universal Monsters line. So just taking a look at the packaging here, pretty much what you'd expect from this line. You got the classic creature poster. You see the creature holding Kay in her vintage bathing suit. You just see like the actors in the movie, but it does say Ultimate Creature from the Black Lagoon at the bottom. Got the logo on the top of the box. Some of the credits for who made the figure on the bottom of the box. Over to the side, you just have the figure pictured with the creature logo and Universal Monsters logo, and of course NECA Real Toys. Another picture of the figure on the other side. Over to the back, really nice photos of the figure itself, again with the logo, and just a little description of what's included. Over back to the front, you get a really nice photo of the creature swimming. And then also, of course, you can see the figure clearly displayed inside of the packaging. So this is a really cool looking release. Let's go ahead and get this out of the box and have a closer look. Here he is outside of the packaging, and you do get a pretty cool backdrop with him. It's basically going to be the underwater, and you can kind of see the surface where he's kind of like getting ready to swim to the top. And if you do toy photography enough, I'm sure you could make this background work. Alright, so we'll start by taking a look at the three different head sculpts for the creature. Now the first one I think is a bit more unique because it actually features a hinged jaw, which is really cool. Before we get to that, just taking a look at the details in the sculpt. Really nice details going on. Love the line work and the face. It's a really different design for the creature. I mean, he's just so unique, so nailing the sculpt on here is just really important. And I think NECA's really done a good job as usual. He's got the bugged out eyes. He's just got that expression that we've seen many times with the creature. Just a really well done sculpt. And over to the side of the gill man here, you can see he's got that kind of like scaly looking beard almost. Just really good details. Awesome work as usual. He does have a bit of a seam line going on in his head sculpt, which isn't the best, and you can see it going right down there. The other ones have it too, so it's just one little aesthetic thing, but from the front you don't see it at all. And then over to the other side of his face, again, got that kind of scaly looking beard. And then over to the back of his head, again, really nice details. You can see a seam going down the middle as well. I think that's more intentional though. Yeah, it's definitely intentional. But really nice sculpting on this. Alright, then coming around to the front of this head sculpt, again, like I said, he does have a hinged jaw on here, so you just have to kind of push it up a bit. Now, like I said, you will see a bit of a line on here if you do have the jaw completely closed. So that's one downside, but he has so much sculpting in the face, it kind of hides it a bit, but not so much from the front. Alright, so like I said, you do get a couple different head sculpts with the creature here. The first one you get is going to be a neutral expression, just a closed mouth. And when you look at this one next to that hinge jaw version, you can see that there's a bit of a line showing like right where the hinge is. So if you want that aesthetic looking a little bit better, you should probably go with that one. And then you also have the mouth open head sculpt. And this one looks pretty good. With the hinged jaw, I think it looks the best with the mouth open. I feel like the mouth opens just a bit more with the hinged jaw. So this one is just a little bit different than what this looks like with the jaw fully opened. But again, definitely very similar head sculpts. And then just to pop this off, just have to do that off camera real quick, but it does pop off pretty easily. And then you could just put a different head sculpt on there. And once you pop it on, you have the different head sculpt. And here he is with the open mouth head sculpt. And again, his mouth with the hinged jaw definitely opens much bigger than this one does. So it does make the hinged jaw one a bit unique because of that. So nice to have three completely different head sculpts. Taking a look at the rest of the sculpt here, looking at the torso, you can really see all the details here. And he kind of has this like metallic, kind of a metallic scale look to it like a fish would have, and I really appreciate that. Now it is one of those figures that you really have to line everything up, because if you just twist this torso a bit or the waist, it's not going to line up perfectly with the scales on his body. So that kind of gets annoying. But just looking at that sculpting, man, it is exceptional. And I really like how the spine lines up with the back of his head. It looks really cool. Just amazing details going on in this whole body. And just looking at the back of the figure, again, really nice details in the sculpt. Just an awesome looking fin. Just really neat how that lines up so well. Aside from the head sculpt, I would say his hands are probably the most important part of this figure. Definitely an important part of the story. But really nice details going on. I really like the different textures going on. Again, with that kind of metallic paint going through. Just gives the illusion of a fish, and you can just see how the fingers are all kind of stuck together. And the palm of his hand, I really like the texture in that as well, and I really like that he has these kind of like claw fingers. And finally down to the legs, I love the metallic paint, just the way it's painted, kind of layered with the different scales, just really, really nice details. And again, you can see over to the back with the fins on each of the legs. They line up really nice. And then even the feet have the little kind of fins going off his calves. Really nice details. Got the sharp feet. Does have the two peg holes on the bottom. Alright, so taking a look at the articulation for the creature here, it is really good. You can turn his head pretty much all the way to the side, and he can look up pretty decent, and he can look down really well. And then he can get some different expression going on in that head sculpt. Look at that lean, just insane. And then, of course, this is the one that has the articulated jaw, so you can move that in different ways, either wide open, fully closed, or somewhere in between. So really nice range on that head sculpt. The arms can go up about that far. The shoulder has a little bit of sculpt kind of hanging over the shoulder, so it can't go up quite all the way, but pretty far. Good enough for like a swim pose. He can do the T pose. And then go about all the way forward that much. Really nice bend in that elbow. That is a double hinge joint. It's just really well hidden. And then the wrist can move pretty good. Up about that far. Down. In. Could bend over about that far. Bend back. You can go to the side a little bit. In case you want to do like a walking pose. Legs go all the way out, all the way down, kick out about that far. Does have the double hinge knee. Ankles go about that far down, that far up. Pretty good rocker. Twist the thigh. So the creature does have some pretty good articulation. Now moving on to some of the different interchangeable parts that come with the creature, aside from the head sculpts, you do get 4 sets of interchangeable hands. Now the ones I have on him here is a bit of a almost fully open hand. It just has a little bit of a bend to it, and then there's a bit of a finger pointing hand. And then you could see the opposite of those here. So you have the other hand that matches the slightly open hand, and then you have the other pointing finger hand. And I really do like this pointing finger. It's pretty cool. The claws do get a little bent up, so you can kind of adjust those a little bit. The other hands that you get with the creature here are going to be a couple of completely open hands. So you get 2 of those. And then you get one that's a bit of like, I don't know, like almost like a swimming type of hand. So it's fully open, but it's out just a little, like the spread out fingers, I guess, a little bit. So most of the hands aren't really that much different, but they will help you with the different poses. The hands on this guy are a little tight when you go to interchange them. You may want to heat it up depending on how safe you feel with your NECA Toys. I am not one to heat everything. But yeah, it interchanges pretty good and seems to stay on there just fine. And for the first comparison, here he is next to some of the other Universal monsters made by NECA Toys. So you have Frankenstein's monster, Dracula, the Mummy, and the Wolfman. And this is just an amazing collection. Love seeing all these guys finally together. For the next comparison, here he is next to some more modern horror figures. So you have Freddy Krueger from the first Nightmare on Elm Street, the Jason from the Friday the 13th, The New Blood, the new TV series Chucky, which I've also reviewed, the Michael Myers based on Halloween 2018, and the original Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And you can see that he does scale really well with these, and he's a pretty big character, so he's actually taller than everybody here. Here he is next to a couple Ninja Turtles figures, also made by NECA Toys. So you have the 1990 Michelangelo right here, and then you have the Mummy Michelangelo, which is the Universal Monsters times TMNT crossover. And you can see that, again, Creature is definitely very tall. Now they will actually have a Creature version of Leonardo coming out eventually, so whenever I get that Leonardo figure, I'll probably review that, and I'll do a comparison with those two. Here he is with Abe Sapien from the first Hellboy movie, and that's made by NECA Toys. And then the damsel in distress, Brittany Murphy from the Sin City movie. And for the final comparison, here he is next to another very large figure. This is the King Shark Build-A-Figure made by Mattel. And you can see that King Shark's a pretty big figure, and the Creature is still able to stand toe-to-toe with him. So, like I said, definitely a taller character. Alright, so that's my review of the Creature from the Black Lagoon. And for the most part, I'm really happy with this figure. I do really love the sculpting. I mean, it is undeniably good. I just think they've done an excellent job sculpting really all the Universal monsters. And this one's no different. It's just fantastic sculpting all around. I think my favorite thing about this figure is even though you get the 2 different head sculpts that really do everything you need to do with the open mouth and the closed mouth, I just think it's cool that they gave you the one with the hinged jaw. There is times where you want to show just a slight bit expression difference instead of using the same exact head sculpt all the time. And having the hinged jaw kind of gives you a lot more possibilities. Even though the aesthetic isn't perfect for something like the closed mouth versus the hinged jaw being closed, they cover it by giving you that extra head sculpt, and I really like that. The only real downside I have about this figure is that you don't get any accessories. Nothing. Not a thing. So that's a bit disappointing, and it's one of the few times where NECA does that. Now, for a lot of the monster figures like American Werewolf from London, or other figures like maybe Godzilla, you really don't get much other than interchangeable heads or interchangeable hands. But there's always a case where maybe for a character like this, someone or something in the environment could maybe, go with this figure to help them a bit, like a background piece. Nothing crazy, because they could always still do the accessory set. But I know like the originals, they would include some, pretty elaborate accessories, even to the point where you would get an extra character. I believe it was Diamond Comics or Diamond Select that included Kay, which is the character that's basically the lead female character, and that would have been an amazing extra if they included her. But, they do give you the different heads, they give you the hands, but you're just not going to get anything else with this one. Also, wouldn't have minded if we got like a stand for him, just so he could have done an aquatic type of swimming pose that's a little bit easier to use. Like if you try to use certain stands, they don't quite hold these larger figures. So something that was specifically for this character to get him in a swimming pose would definitely help. But that's my review. It's a really great figure. I highly recommend it, especially if you've been collecting the Universal Monsters line. So thanks for watching my review. If you liked it, go ahead and leave a like. If you have a comment or question, leave that in the comments section below. And until next time, guys, see ya.